All right, we are live right now. Welcome everyone. Hope you don't mind my choice of classical music to start the night off. I may have a problem with my tea, which I'll have to try fixing sooner than later. It would appear that I might have pulled the tea bag out to the spout, which means I'll be finagling with it for the rest of the night and probably getting tea leaves in my tea. So I'm gonna try getting that real quick. There we go. That's going to be a problem later, I'm sure, but I'll handle that later. It's not a big deal. Welcome everyone to another eventful stream. Hopefully everything's fun. Hopefully everything's enjoyable. We shall find out for sure as we go. Tea's all right for now. Probably have some tea leaves I have to chew out of the cup as we continue. It's been a wild couple of days. Are you going to cover today's news that WB closed most of their studios and canceled their Wonder Woman game today as well? Oh, absolutely. The cancellation of the Wonder Woman game alone is a big deal. And between that and Marvel Rivals' recent controversy, I want to discuss everything. Gavin Carrot, thank you for the early super chat. What did Kathleen even do? Like, genuine question. Like, what is her job? We will discuss that in a bit. I'm going to take a few minutes to let everyone come in. I do want to start when the chat is a little bit bigger before we start talking about what Kathleen Kennedy did, but that is the core question of the day. What did she do, and how much of the things people got mad over were her accountability at all? It's a big question. A lot of misinformation out there. We're going to cover a lot of it. But as we keep going, let's let people come in. I will say it's been quite the wild couple of days. Is this the death of Western comics? Is Demon Slayer gonna set fire to the printers? Well, Demon Slayer is great, but I don't think it's gonna replace Western comics. At least not the entire genre. Nutter the Butter, thank you for super chat. Have you seen Little Witch Academia? If so, favorite character? I have seen Little Witch Academia. It's been ages though. I always love the one mischievous one with like the what's her name? Oh, I'm trying to blank on her name because it's been ages since I've seen it. Let me get the. She had like the little mischievous little thing. What's her name? I'm gonna cheat and just. I can show you what she looks like, but like I just forget what her name is. With the long purple hair. Let me get the image up here from the. Yeah, that's a tiny image, but her on the right. I always loved her. She was always great. Always dug that character. Wait, why did it not get the full image? Oh, here we go. Here's the actual image I was looking for. I mean, I love all of them. They're all good kids, but like, she was like my vibe. That's like my dark twisted vibe. I love that stuff. Love those kinds of characters. Pegasus. Pegasus. Thank you for. It's not Pegasus, I don't think. Thank you for super chat. Hey Anthony, love these videos. I was wondering if you were still planning on doing a Yuri on Ice video. Oh yeah, I am. I definitely am. I'm definitely planning it. I just need a time to do it. I need the occasion. But I want to do a Yuri on Ice video because that's a topic that there's so much I can discuss, and I authentically love those characters. Yuri Katsuki especially is one of those characters I just like absolutely adore, absolutely love it, just absolutely great. But yeah, I do plan on it. Just need a good topic for it. Laugh Track, thank you for super chat. Hope you're well, Anthony. Have you ever read the Malazan Book of the Fallen series? If not, I think it may pique your interest, and I would love to hear you talk about it someday. So, Malazan Book of the Fallen. I started the first book. I did not finish it. Not because I didn't enjoy it, because I did. It was quite good. But the problem was, I just knew it was going to be one of those books that like would consume my life for a period of time, and I wanted to wait to read the whole thing. But that book series is incredible. I know it's incredible, but I have to devote myself to reading that. That's going to need me to take out like the guides and like a whole map to figure out who everyone is and at what time period. Because I know it jumps around over the course of I think thousands of years, if I've been informed correctly. The new cut is looking good. Thank you so much. This was a haircut I got Friday. I have filmed this week's video right after getting the haircut, so we'll see how that goes. It's It's going to be a lot. Friday's video is going to be the Sailor Moon video, hence the imagery here. Sai's still working on the thumbnail, so I can't show you anything about it yet, but it is a rewrite of Sailor Moon through the lens of dark fantasy, and I'm really excited to have a show. Hopefully it turns out good. I still have to finish editing it. Hopefully by tomorrow I'll have it done, and then I'm going to put more work into getting the anime preservation video done. Okay. Chat's getting a little big here, so it looks like we have an audience. That's what I was going to talk about. I saw on Blue Sky, Lady Emily was talking about her TV tropes page, and I was going like, wait, you have a TV tropes page? And then Jazzy chimed in, and she had a TV tropes page. I'm like, you have a TV tropes page? I don't have a TV tropes page. I was very, very upset by this. Truly awful news that I apparently do not have a page devoted about me on TV tropes. That was why I made that post for. I'm like, but I didn't want to make anyone. I didn't want to make it myself because I feel like that's almost like too egocentric even for me. So I was like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's not a big deal. I'm just messing around. Also, I heard that Lily Orchard, CD Cal, has a new video about which she covers a topic that I covered about 3 months ago. I'm so glad that she's decided to steal ideas from more successful YouTubers now. But that's what happens sometimes, I guess. Even if you don't like Sailor Moon, I do recommend taking a look at tomorrow's video, Friday's video, mainly because I made it, so I'm biased, but also that but also that the video itself goes over the mechanics of writing one genre versus the other, and how it kind of, if you change something fundamental about a story, how that impacts the overall flow of it. And I think it's an interesting writing experiment. If you're interested in writing, I think I put a lot of effort into it, but we'll see how it turns out. Sometimes you make a video and it doesn't turn out as well as you'd like. Other times it turns out really well. But I'm definitely going to focus on the anime preservation video after this, though, with a couple smaller videos in the interim. Like, we're talking like half hour as opposed to 1 hour videos for the next couple of weeks after this. Anyway, we have a lot to cover today. A lot of different news stories. And as always, when I cover these things, I want to look at the original articles that discuss them, but I also want to react to some reactions to these news stories from the usual suspects that will forever corrupt my entire algorithm. So let's keep going with that. Yeah, the Sailor Moon video I'm really proud of. I think it's going to be really good. In fact, I think Neuralities did a video kind of like what I'm doing a while back, where she covered what Sailor Moon would be like if it were given like a sequel after Stars, which I thought was a really cool idea. So Neuralities, I am borrowing your idea, but in a very different direction. Quite the opposite of everything you've ever done in terms of Sailor Moon stuff. But it's cool. It's fun. Hopefully it'll be fun. I'm saying it's fun, but I'm hoping it will be. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. Excited for the Sailor Moon video. I started the series again with the Faith dub, and I'm really digging it. Just finished the Jadeite arc, jazzed for more. Oh, I love Sailor Moon. It's so great. It's so amazing. I do want to talk about Kathleen Kennedy first, because I feel like with James Gunn, it's going to be very easy to discuss, because James Gunn, he gave a whole... You know what? I'm going to do James Gunn first, because that's the smaller of the two news stories, and there's less right-wing reactions to that. So if you don't like it, you can always, if you don't want to see right-wing reactions, don't have to stop midway through. Let me just bring up James Gunn first, the news. So James Gunn, as we all know, is the head of DC Studios, and he recently gave a big press event in Hollywood, where he went over all the new things that are coming out for DC in the coming months, coming years, really. And let me adjust my screen slightly so you can get a good vision. Here we go. I may zoom in a little more so you can get a little in there so you can see the text a little better. So DC's new slate has been updated. Some projects are being put on hold. Oh, I see the problem now. It's a little. There you go. Now, so the problem is some projects are being put on hold. Others are going full steam ahead, like this whole thing right here. So, as with any news story, I highly recommend reading the original text of it. This version's from the Hollywood Reporter, but there's several different iterations of the story. So 2 years after James Gunn and Peter Safran unveiled an ambitious slate, the duo offer updates on what they found along the way, such as Clayface, and what has hit speed bumps, such as Waller and The Authority, which is disappointing because I really want to see The Authority. I'm not going to read through the entire article publicly, but I am going to get to the highlights I think are really useful. And from here, we're going to discuss a couple of things. For one, what I want to focus on is how this news relates to the bigger discussions we've had on franchise fatigue, how I think this is going to help with the superhero genre as a whole in terms of contributions to the medium, but also how it's going to push Marvel, I think, to do better than they've previously done. And I'll get to all of that and more in a bit. A couple super chats first. Laugh Track, thank you for super chat. YouTube recommended me your channel a year ago, and you've quickly become one of my favorite channels. Love your vid, Ant. Keep being amazing. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to read stuff like that, because sometimes you read some messy comments and you're like, maybe I made a mistake coming on YouTube, but stuff like that really brings me up, so I really appreciate that. Nick Wolf, thank you for the super chat. I think watching Cardcaptor Sakura has helped me get Sailor Moon more. I tried to watch Japanese dub in 2010s, but was too Doug Walker pilled. Valid. That's a valid point. And again, Cardcaptor Sakura, I think, in many ways is a little more accessible in some ways because of its structure, because it's more just like a teenage drama, I think. Very grounded in some respects. Sailor Moon does follow some of the formula a little more strongly. Okay, so so James Gunn said, we don't want... sorry. Ignore that. James Gunn said, we don't want these characters to die out. We want to bring new stories and new life. We want to introduce these characters to new generations. And I think we are doing that slowly but surely. That's important. Slowly but surely. Okay, so. Now, as they mentioned, Superman, that's coming out this year. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that's coming out next year. Those are filming right now, as is the show Lanterns. Also, Peacemaker Season 2, that's coming out later this year. And they've also recently confirmed Creature Commandos is getting a new season. So all of that is confirmed. All of that is good. Now, the first new... However, a couple things they introduced here. Well, not introduced, they've mentioned that they've added to the slate. Clayface, a body horror thriller based on the Batman villain, will shoot this summer for a fall 2026 release. Sergeant Rock, a period war movie to be directed by Luca Guadagnino. I always mess up your name. I'm so sorry. Guadagnino is actively looking for its star because originally Daniel Craig was originally going to play Sergeant Rock. He dropped out of the role, or rather stepped back from the role, and now they're looking for someone else. And an animated movie, the dynamic duo is in pre-production. Now, what I hope they do also, they mentioned the Superman documentary. I would really love to see them do more Superman-related stuff, because Superman was such a great documentary about Christopher Reeve. It was heartbreaking. Have you seen that? Have you seen that documentary, Superman? It's excellent. Just heartbreaking. Now, so Journals this Friday in the WB Burbank lots. Owned last year, DC brand was being defined by different creative teams at the company. Each was pursuing their own distinct vision of the characters, the story. The result was not one DCU, but many. This fracture proved very challenging to consumers, and it chipped away at the identity of the brand. This is very true. The big issue, I think, with the DCEU that was in existence under Zack Snyder, under with the Wonder Woman, with Aquaman, you would watch Batman v Superman, then you'd watch Wonder Woman, then you watch Aquaman. And they felt like different worlds. They were so divided in how they told their story, it felt hard to really compromise the two. And try as they might towards the end, it didn't really work out because they never really got that mix quite right. Anyway, now, we've unified the brand. We've greenlit 5 theatrical films, made 3 live-action series, and are producing 5 animated series. 2 of which are My Adventures with Green Lantern and Starfire. We'll get to that in a bit. I do want to go over an article that kind of lays out everything they've announced, but I am hyped for these shows, especially My Adventures with Green Lantern, based on the naming conventions implying it's in canon with My Adventures with Superman, which I adore. But we'll get to that in a bit. The goal for the company is to make 2 live-action films and 1 animated movie per year, while also producing 2 live-action shows and 2 animated series for Max per year. The company aims to work in multiple genres and sizes of projects. We don't serve one kind of audience, so why make one kind of movie? Working in a multitude of genres, it affords us the opportunity to allocate resources where they can make the biggest impact. We budget according to the demands of the story and the revenue expectations of each title. That is important. Right there. Both of those are so essential. Now, here's the 2 things I'm taking away with this. One of the big things with Marvel back in the day was that when Marvel was first starting, they were priding themselves on the fact they were going through multiple different genres. For example, what do you call it? Iron Man was a tech thriller. Thor was an epic fantasy. Captain America was a wartime film. And these different genres came together in a way that was very interesting. As time went on, Marvel kind of fell into its own formulas and its own structure, but what it sounds like here is that they're going to focus more on even more diverging genres. Hence why they're doing Sergeant Rock. Hence why they're doing Clayface. Lower budget films to go alongside the bigger budget affairs. If you ask me what the most interesting Marvel property project in the last few years has been, it's Ms. Marvel. And Ms. Marvel is a teen drama that also takes place in New Jersey and Pakistan. It's very different from what they've done previously. It defies the genre expectations that an MCU film has. So I think that this new structure is going to work really well, ideally. Nick Wolf, thanks for Super Chat. Give me Twink Kyle Rayner for My Adventures with Green Lantern yesterday. Hold that thought. Kyle Rayner is not the Green Lantern that will be in My Adventures with Green Lantern. I'll get to that in a second. Okay. So, we remain steadfast these projects work as standalone projects, so you can see Superman, you can watch Lanterns without having to see both of them. Although if you can, there will be special things in there for people who have seen both. And we've seen that to an extent, because Creature Commando introduced Sergeant Rock already. And I'm hoping that means that G.I. Robot will show up in Sergeant Rock. But, what do I know? And again, they go on into details like saying like how the Clayface movie, for example, only came out because they got a really good script for it. And that they are building with a 6-year plan to an Avengers Endgame style culmination. Hopefully that means Justice League, but we'll see. I would like to see Justice League a little sooner, but I digress. There's a few projects to talk about where they did not succeed. So, for example, we've taken a couple cracks at it, but still haven't been able to land. Okay, I'm not sure. So Waller, Peacemaker, Suicide Spinoff, saw Viola Davis. Waller has been a bumpy road. Booster Gold has had some problems. Maybe he fell out of love. Maybe he got busy, but he had to pivot in terms of the showrunner. The Authority, which is an adaptation of the comics involving the superhero group, which I've talked a lot about. They've fallen the wayside a little bit. The Batman is having some. The script hasn't been sent in yet. Swamp Thing with James Mangold, it's still on the back burner. He might be working with Lucasfilm. We'll get that later. The Brave and the Bold, which was going to be directed by Andy Muschietti, who did It. That's been having some issues as well. And even the Penguin's been having a little bit of trouble. But it sounds like they do have the right idea, which is good. So far, it looks like a lot of what's going on with James Gunn is really good. But I want to show you the full slate of everything that we know so far. And I'm going to tell you how I feel about it and how you all feel about it right now. So going to IGN right now. I know, hitting all the marks here, right? All right, IGN here has a go away Canva. Whole thing. So what are the films coming out? Well, we got this whole list right here. Superman, Peacemaker 2, The Sandman Season 2. I can never get away from that writer, can I? Sandman Season 2 is coming out as well this year. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow next year, June 26th. Clayface, September 11th next year. Wow. Sergeant Rock will be, I think, fall of 2026 apparently as well. So getting 3 films out that year. The Batman coming out 2027. There'll probably be films in the middle between there, but we'll see how it goes. Dynamic Duo, the original Bat-Robin film, that's coming out 2028, which seems like eons away, but we'll see. Then we have, in various stages of development, the Lanterns TV show, which is filming now. It's probably going to go somewhere next year. The Brave and the Bold, no idea yet. Creature Commandos Season 2, probably about 2 years away. The Authority, no idea. Swamp Thing, no idea. The Teen Titans movie, which is in production as well. We'll find out. And a bunch of other projects as well that are coming out to various extents. A lot of this is very exciting stuff, but we just don't know yet enough. We don't know enough yet about what we're getting. And there's some shows like the Paradise Lost TV show, which is in complete limbo. Mohammed, thank you for the super chat. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the superhero bubble popped, and now we're entering an era of burnout. Although there's diamonds here and there, I feel like the adherence to a universe is tiring. I feel the bigger problem is fewer crossover events. I feel like a few crossover events would solve a lot of the problems. Seeing these characters together again. Because it's the idea that we're adhering to a universe that can't change. And it's been very stagnant. The MCU has been very stagnant since Endgame. The biggest event has been Endgame. And there hasn't really been another big event since then that the whole MCU has been affected by. I think that's a big issue too. There needs to be more status quo and flexibility with this world, otherwise it does get stale. I've always been a comic book guy, so I've always been okay with a universe like this. And nothing's really changed in that regard for me. But it's a matter of, it needs to be an update somewhere. Now, the next news story I want to talk about right here is Warner Brothers canceling the Wonder Woman game and closing 3 of their studios down. Now, this studio is... Now, I'm not shocked. Warner Brothers has been closing up games for a while now. Multiverses was not a success. It did not succeed the way they were hoping, and it shows. But this news really does, it's not good. This news isn't good. So I'm going to read the whole press. I'm going to read the whole press thing from Jason Schreier, who is a Bloomberg reporter. So the statement is as thus. We have Warner Brothers confirmed. Oh, I'm sorry. Warner Brothers confirmed. This is the Warner Brothers statement. I'm sorry. To Kotaku. We have had to make some difficult decisions to structure our development studios and investments around building the best games possible with our key franchises. Those franchises being Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, DC, and Game of Thrones. After careful consideration, we are closing 3 of our development studios, Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Brothers Games San Diego. This is a strategic change in direction and not a reflection of these teams or the talent that consists within them. the development of Monolith's Wonder Woman video game will not move forward. Our hope was to give players and fans the highest quality experience possible with the iconic character, and unfortunately, this is no longer possible within our strategic priorities. This is another tough decision. We recognize Monolith's storied history of delivering epic fan experiences through amazing games. We greatly admire the passion of these three teams and thank every employee for their contributions. So in other words, they've fired all these hardworking developers, and for all their hard work, they've rewarded them with termination and unemployment. It is absolutely a symptom, undeniably so, of studios gobbling up these smaller studios. They're successful. They have a few hits. They have a few big hits. And then monopolizing them under one banner. I hate everything about this story. And you're about to hear me get angry about it shortly. Especially considering that we lost a Wonder Woman game. Gavin Carruth. I'm sure my adventures with Green Lantern will be great, but I'm kind of miffed that Jessica Cruz is on her 5th adaptation. Meanwhile, my favorite Green Lantern, Kyle, gets nothing. That is correct. So, Jessica Cruz will be the main character in my adventures with Green Lantern, which presumably will be in the canon with my adventures with Superman. I really hope they cross over because I love those characters and I just want to see more of them. But yeah, that's going to be a thing. We lost the Nemesis system. Yeah, Monolith had the rights to the Nemesis system in the Middle-earth Lord of the Rings games, and now it's gone. I hate everything about this news. It is estimated last year, in 2023, that over 10,000 game developers were laid off. Last year, 2024, that number is 14,000. That means in 2 years, there were 24,000 layoffs in the game industry. Some of them might be overlapped, so I don't want to say 24,000 different people were laid off. It's extremely upsetting. And because, listen, Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. Obviously, it was not a very successful game. It was a big failure, in fact. A lot of those issues can be chalked up to studio interference, to the studios pushing for a certain type of game. It's absolutely horrendous how this keeps happening. The guy 493, again, Kyle gets shafted. Yeah, that is fair. He does. Again, it's deeply upsetting because Wonder Woman is one of the only... Now here's the other thing, too, I want to talk about. Warner Brothers keeps talking about prioritizing certain games. So they want to prioritize Game of Thrones. They want to prioritize DC. But they also want to prioritize Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Because that's the game that everyone really wants to see more of, right? Harry Potter. Hogwarts Legacy had a player base, had 90% of its player base disappear between the game's release and its ultimate, I guess a few weeks after it came out. The game is not that good, and I know there's also controversy about transphobia, about anti-Semitism in the game. That's all horrendous. It sold a lot of money early on and then lost its player base early on. I do not think you're going to get a long-term return on the Harry Potter brand. But you will get a long-term return on DC characters because there's so many different characters and all of them have fans. So it makes no sense to me how you're going to go, okay, we're going to stop making a Wonder Woman game using the same systems that, made the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth game so successful. But we're going to make another Hogwarts Legacy-esque game that's going to make, get all this controversy, sell a lot of units, but then have no long-term plan. And then that's not to say the single-player gaming world is dead. It bums me out. And with this, especially in relation with the with Marvel Rivals, in case you didn't hear, Marvel Rivals, recently they laid off the entire American team for Marvel Rivals. This does not affect the Chinese team that develops the game. It's more the American localization side and all that. And they're still going to have some cross-play to make sure it's updated for American audiences. But, it's like the gaming industry is a mess. Like, if your company fails, and that could be the parent company like David Zaslav, if they fail, you suffer. If your game fails, you suffer. And if you succeed, well, guess what? You still suffer. What incentive is there for game developers to actually continue to make good games if every project they work on culminates in them being laid off? Really, what incentive is there for any game developer to succeed in that kind of economy? Oh, and then as they're developing it, you get like attacked by like right-wing grifters online who argue that your game is desexifying women or something like that. David Deister, thank you for Super Chat. David Zaslav needs to be fired, as he is a bad influence on the Warner Brothers and should never have been hired. Yeah, David Zaslav is terrible, and his business decisions have not been good. He is anti-art, and a lot of what he's done has been a mess. However, David Haddad is the one in charge of the gaming division of Warner Brothers. That is to say, I don't know whether or not David Zaslav had any impact on the decision. He might not have. He could have. He probably signed off on something with that. A decision that big for the whole company, he probably signed off somewhere there. But still. The guy, 493, thank you for Super Chat. As soon as Tears of the Kingdom came out, everyone forgot about Hogleg. Oh, Hogwarts Legacy. There we go. I think it's because Zelda has 7-foot-tall Amazon women. Hogwarts does not. Well, that and Hogwarts Legacy wasn't a good game. It was just kind of bland. Like, it wasn't even like even ignoring the fact that the game had all the cruddy stuff it did, it was just a very empty game. You were very limited with what you could do. Like fly around the world, okay. Once you get over the initial impression of, it's like the world I grew up with, there's nothing really there, and that kind of sums up modern Hogwarts stuff already. Like, John Lithgow recently announced he was going to play Dumbledore in the new Harry Potter film, Harry Potter series that they're doing for Max or HBO or whatever. And like, if you're doing Harry Potter in this day and age, you're co-signing transphobia, you're co-signing all that, and it just says you're okay with all that. And some actors they need to get the job. There's a good video that Jesse Gender just put out going over some of their feelings on it. But yeah, I just don't. It just doesn't. It's not the right culture for a Harry Potter series. We've culturally, I feel like, moved past it in so many ways. And I feel like Hogwarts Legacy is not going to be continuing the momentum moving forward. You're not going to see games like that. I mean, yes, the anti-Semitism, that's a big thing too. And better Jewish critics can go over the specifics of that I wouldn't pick up on as someone who's not Jewish. But, yeah, no, it's just just a mess. Hogleg, I know. Mohammed, thank you for Super Chat. The Western entertainment industry is too IP-oriented. They're making and canceling things based on its IP and IP potential, and it's stifling the creation of art that these IPs were back in the day. 100% agree. Disney's a big offender of this, but Warner Brothers is just as big an influence. If not for someone like James Gunn, you wouldn't have a chance to really evolve the brands like they have. Blue Baron, thank you for Super Chat. Hopefully you will catch the new Looney Tunes movie. Yeah, I want to see that. It looks really good. I'm not going to lie. I really want to see that movie. It's amazing how Looney Tunes is now like an underrated brand in so many regards. Anyway, Kathleen Kennedy. Let's dive into that. I do want to get the chuds geared up. And reactions. We have everyone's favorite. Yep. There's several videos already about this. We'll go into some of them. Some of them from your favorite creators. favorite creators. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's look at what is actually happening with Kathleen Kennedy. To make sure we have a consensus of the story before we move on from here. Now, Here is Variety. This is Variety's pitch of it. So, let's take a look at what Variety has to say. Star Wars boss Kathleen Kennedy planning to exit Lucasfilm at the end of 2025. Okay, simple. So, this is Kathleen Kennedy's last year at Lucasfilm because she is planning on leaving. Those are some important components of the story right now. She is choosing to leave. I mean, she's 72 years old. Just about. She will be 72 when she retires. Absolutely a good time to go. Kathleen Kennedy, the longtime president of Lucasfilm, is expected to step down at the end of 2025. She intends to retire after her current contract ends. So she's waiting out her contract, according to a source with knowledge of her plans. A separate source close to Kennedy, however, dismissed the initial report by Puck as pure speculation and said nothing has been decided. So, a source is saying she's stepping down, but it is not 100% confirmed yet by Kennedy. The story has not been updated, so we can assume it's accurate so far. She's credited. Her future with the company behind Star Wars has been a source of speculation over the years. The Force Awakens remains the highest-grossing film in domestic box office history, with $936 million and $2 billion globally. But the triad of Skywalker-centric blockbusters experienced diminishing returns, as did all of the Star Wars films. But I digress. Solo was the first to lose money. Lucasfilm Kennedy also oversaw 2023's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the fifth and final film in the Harrison Ford-led series. It was a flop. It lost $140 million for the studio. Undeniably so, Dial of Destiny had trouble financially. There's been a lot of issues over the years with false starts on projects, films being announced but never going anywhere. There have been a lot of plans so far, speculation. I do want to come up real quick right here and ask the next question. Who is going to replace Kathleen Kennedy when she goes? I have a theory, and I think everyone does too, as to who's going to replace her. But let me first read a couple super chats real quick. Nick Wolf, thanks for super chat. And it sounds like I'm going to have to bust out the Four Loko I found in the wild yesterday because of the reaction vids that you've queued up. Oh, you may just have to. I'll settle with T, but I may be jealous there. Adrian Parchman, thank you for super chat. I think they should remake the OG Dragon Ball, not Z, but Kid Goku era, since most people outside the manga sphere know the story. I guess they could. I'm a little hesitant. I don't think we need to remake Dragon Ball. I think it's a great series as is. Maybe do like a Dragon Ball Z Kai thing with Dragon Ball, maybe. That'd be kind of cool. So, who's going to replace Kathleen Kennedy? Just about everyone thinks it's going to be Dave Filoni. That's the smart money is on Dave Filoni. That does not mean, however, that is necessarily going to be Dave Filoni, but we'll figure it out. During her tenure, Kennedy guided Star Wars brand across many celebrated achievements. She also has been criticized for the franchise's many missteps. The executive, along with Disney in general, has also often been targeted by the franchise's fandom for diverse casting moves and a perceived quote-unquote woke agenda, which is completely stupid, and I'll get to that later. Kennedy's impending retirement might be drawing cheers from fans online. Insiders say that replacing the season's executive will be rather difficult. Some in the industry, from studio managers to representatives, believe that the company's senior leadership has done a poor job in training and elevating a next generation of Padawan executives from which to potentially tap a replacement. And that's true for a lot of companies. Very often, there is a poor move made to rise up an executive to replace the current executives. That's why when Bob Iger left Disney, they struggled because there was no clear succession plan in place. One reason Kathy stuck around for so long is because there is no credible alternative. said one person who has many interactions with Lucasfilm leadership. Sources say former Lucasfilm executive Rain Roberts, who was at the company for 12 years, was being groomed by Kennedy as a likely replacement. But just last week, Roberts was announced as Searchlight's new senior VP of production. Then there are the details of the job itself. Kennedy was a movie producer who ended up not only overseeing the new Star Wars films, but Indiana Jones, the wide range of films. It's a role that is less creative in nature and more blandly managerial than outsiders realize. Now, on my YouTube page, I put a poll asking, do you think Kathleen Kennedy did a good job at Lucasfilm as the president of Lucasfilm? And everyone was kind of like, nah, she did terrible, or no, she didn't do that great. People do not realize that the executive is not the person writing the scripts. They are a person making general, big picture ideas. Kathleen Kennedy was never the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. David Deister, thank you for the incredibly generous super chat. Whoever replaces Kathleen Kennedy will be better or even worse than her, but I am not holding my breath since she put the company in a difficult position. This is also true. But she put the company in a difficult position not because of creative decisions, but because of a lack of commitment to her vision. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Kathleen Kennedy's biggest problem as producer of Lucasfilm was her refusal to commit. Star Wars, under her leadership, kept flip-flopping direction. It starts with Solo, right? Solo was rewritten from the ground up because the initial pitch that they got, they changed course on. They changed their mind on. They switched gears. And what ends up happening is, I'll make it a little bigger so you can see the screen better. What ends up happening is you end up paying these guys to write your script. You end up making a whole film, and then you just toss all of it out and reshoot the whole film. People forget that. Even before and then with Rise of Skywalker, I am a defender of The Last Jedi. I think it was a pretty decent movie, but there's no defending the fact that it was controversial. In the right position, you would have a plan in place and stick to that plan. Their decision was to change course completely, and the sloppy, speedy rewrite shows in the final product. And the fact that all three films were written separately without any of the writers kind of forming a writer's room, almost like it was a TV show, is proof that they were struggling. It's something that Kevin Feige didn't do. It's something that James Gunn isn't doing. It's very different from the usual approach, which is to say, creative hands-on, looking at the slate holistically. From there, Lucasfilm struggled to find a focused perspective from there on out. Look at when you go back to the 2021 investors call where they announced all this new slate of Star Wars stuff. You got a massive slate. You got like a Droid's Tale. You got the Lando Calrissian show. It was all coming out next 5 years, and then like half of that came out, and the rest was canceled. There was Patty Jenkins' X-Wing Rogue Squadron show movie, never came out. Taika Waititi's Star Wars film, never came out. Kevin Feige was going to get a Star Wars movie, never came out. And the ones that did come out, like The Acolyte, like Ahsoka, were met with controversy. They were met with controversy, and it doesn't help that they made TV shows structured like movies, just that was extra long, much like what Marvel did. Some of that has to do with Disney's insistence on doing more stuff. That is true, but not as much as people think. Now, what people don't realize is it's not another quote about. It's mostly dealing with Disney, licensing, and fans. Now, another big issue too, a lack of licensing with the Star Wars brand outside of, and even then, one thing too, the new Indiana Jones game I hear is really good. Took a while to get that out, didn't it? Now, who are the candidates so far? According to the Hollywood Reporter, here are the frontrunners. Jon Favreau. Oh, come on. Stop doing that. Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau's been with the franchise for a while. Of course, he's been in the film industry for years. He worked on Iron Man. He directed Iron Man. But with Star Wars, he jumped in with The Mandalorian. And he is directing The Mandalorian and Grogu. Big deal. He understands the universe. But I don't think Favreau wants to be in this position because it's not as creative. You got to remember, Jon Favreau, for a while, was being groomed for Kevin Feige's position as well. He backed out. He did not stick around. He did not want to be the next Kevin Feige. He wanted to be creative. Favreau, I do not see taking this role at all. And there's Dave Filoni, who, again, is... I don't think he's going to work good for it either, because Dave Filoni's a creative. I think some of his decisions with Ahsoka weren't that great. But one source is claiming, according to the Hollywood Reporter, that Filoni is already Disney's choice to succeed Kennedy. And they predict that he will be announced as Kennedy's successor in April. I don't want this to be the case. I think that Filoni should stick to the creative side of things. I do not believe he's going to succeed in this position, but we'll see. We'll find out. Some people saying both Filoni and Favreau. Kevin Feige's not an option. Why would you even suggest that? That is ridiculous. You're not going to see that. J.J. Abrams. No! Don't want to see that either. That'd be terrible as well. J.J. Abrams is a good producer. Sometimes. But J.J. Abrams has been working with Warner Brothers for like years now, trying to get a Superman movie made. Yeah, he's too busy. He's not going to do this. It's going to be something boring, someone you've never heard of before. Emma Watts. Now, here we're getting to the actual choices that look better. Emma Watts. Watts is a respected executive who is the longtime president of production at 20th Century Fox, who, among other projects, notched franchises experienced by steering the wildly ranging in quality X-Men movies, including Deadpool. She is also the executive in charge of Fox when James Cameron's Avatar came out. She had a brief stint as president of Paramount's Motion Picture Club Group, but has been sitting on the sidelines since studio leadership change in 2021. This is someone you want as your producer, Emma Watts. Someone like this is way more experienced with the executive side of things, with the licensing side of things, and with managing the business angle of 20th Century Fox. You do not want a Star Wars fanboy being in charge of Lucasfilm. You just don't. Because they're not going to think with the business withal. That's property for the brand. That's proper for the brand. You're just not going to get it. Now, another one right here. Hannah Minghella. So, speaking of Bad Robot, Abrams' former employee, Minghella, is a name that surfaced as a possible contender on Tuesday. The exec has former experience across the live-action and animation spheres, as well as family fare. Okay. She has had a long stint at Stony Pictures, with titles she worked on ranging from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Hotel Transylvania to Jumanji and Goosebumps. She has been running Netflix's feature animation and live-action family divisions since last summer, so would have to extricate herself from a multi-year deal. That's a better choice. Again, she's tied up with Netflix, which might be a more lucrative deal for her. But again, she's an executive. All right, Steph the Scientist, thank you for Super Chat. I hope it isn't Filoni. He's a bit too much of a Star Wars fanboy as far as I'm concerned. Agreed. And again, I like... Oh, what's going on here? I'm seeing in chat someone saying... Something going on in chat? I'm not sure. Again, those are the only options. Okay. I like the last two options. They are executives. Wait, who's going? I just glanced at chat real quick. I'm seeing Ant, people shouting my name. Political debate. Yeah, no, this isn't political. This is just simply talking about Star Wars. Again, you need an executive who knows how to run a company. You don't ask writers to manage your company. And again, it has to be a good decision. SMJ, thank you, JT, thank you for super chat. Shad Brooks should take over as replacement. Can you imagine? He would have an anxiety attack day one. The guy can't handle being criticized on the internet. Can you imagine the pressure of a boardroom meeting with like Bob Iger? Can you imagine that? Like he would crumble in seconds. Hell, just talking about investment would drive him nuts. Well, he'd have no influence on creativity. It's all licensing stuff. Like, he wouldn't even know what to do. That's the thing. People don't realize that. It's not just like, oh, hey, I'm going to go tell them to bring Darth Vader back or whatever for the 19th time. No, it's like you have to like think like, okay, how are we going to pay for all this? How are we going to license this out? It would destroy him. Anyway. You know what time it is now. It's a time in all these videos where I lose my brain cells slightly and watch what people think right now on the internet about Kathleen Kennedy. All I did was type in Kathleen Kennedy. We got Dan Murrell, who may have a more... Let's start with Dan Murrell. I think his opinions will be a little more level-headed, but we have other ones too, don't worry. Oh, one second, muted. The guy, 493, critical drinker is the head of Star Wars. Oh, God. Oh, God. I know I joked that idea, but that could be a legitimate thing depending on who gets in charge of the company. Adrian Parchman, my wife's face on Layla in the gold slave outfit. Love it. I know he meant Leia, but Layla is even funnier. Anyway.
Hello everybody, this is Dan Murrell here with some breaking news. This is usually where you would find my box office show, Charts with Dan, and I will have it out later today. But literally in the middle of the night, as I was finishing up prep on that show, some massive potential news dropped, which was a report from Matthew Baloney at the news outlet Puck that cited 3 different sources saying that Kathleen Kennedy, the, yes, controversial head of Lucasfilm, plans to step down as the head of Lucasfilm by the end of 2025.
Again, major news. But the source is important. Puck is not the Hollywood Reporter, though Hollywood Reporter has run the story since then.
Baloney also claims that Kennedy had planned to step down last year, but instead decided to stay on for one final year. Now, it should be noted, and I have to underscore this, that these reports, or at least this report from Puck, has not been confirmed by Disney, Lucasfilm, or Kathleen Kennedy, so you should take it with a grain of salt until we do get final confirmation. That confirmation may be out by the time this is released early in the morning. But usually when a reporter drops a story like this in the middle of the night, I think it was after midnight Eastern time, that means that reporter is afraid that they are going to get scooped, which means that somebody else may have the story. So we will have to see if this is actually confirmed. But if it's true, this is, of course, a massive industry story because Kathleen Kennedy has been the head of Lucasfilm since it was sold to Disney back in 2012.
That's important to note. If the story was leaked that late, then yeah, it's going to be probably because they want to avoid being scooped. So that adds some legitimacy to the source. I believe at the very least the reporter believes the story to have merit. Even though they're confirming it as a rumor, you know, it could very well be true. I think it is. I have inclination to believe it is. Keep in mind, Kathleen Kennedy is going to be 72 by the end of this year. She's old enough to retire. She has nothing else to prove. She can relax. Nick Wolf, thanks, Super Chat. Shad would try to convince the Disney bigwigs to invest in Shadiverse, Disneyland, Australia's answer to Disneyland, built on Shad's unusable swampland. Yeah, right? Can you imagine that? Oh my goodness.
And when you look at this, I don't think it's a huge shock that Kathleen Kennedy would be talking about retiring. She's 71 years old, and Lucasfilm doesn't have a whole lot that's in active production at the moment. Andor Season 2 will be coming out in just a few weeks. The Mandalorian and Grogu is in post-production, but everything else currently is essentially in development. There's not even something that's in active pre-production right now. So if I was an executive looking for a time to step away, this would be a logical time, even if you're just planning to hand over what you have to somebody else.
That's a good point too. Lucasfilm people have been joking about Lucasfilm announcing projects, canceling projects, announcing projects, canceling projects. That Star Wars hasn't really gotten off the ground lately. That's a major point as well. Reasonably, yeah, this is a good point of transition. There's not a whole lot of plates on the stove. Things are moving slowly ahead, but I digress. Robert Cruz, thank you for the super chat, even though there's no information in there.
I have my own thoughts about that, which I'll share in a minute. So if Kennedy is indeed planning to step down this year, let's take a look back at her time as the fan favorite. Seasons received a much more uneven reception. The Book of Boba Fett, which spun off of The Mandalorian, the series, a second season or spin another successful project, Rian Johnson, a trilogy from David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, a movie from Taika Waititi, a Rogue Squadron movie from Patty Jenkins. Right now, supposedly, there is a Rey movie that's in development. A James Mangold movie is reportedly in development. A Lando streaming series or movie starring Donald Glover is reportedly in development. Really, the only thing we know we're getting is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which was directed by Jon Favreau and is in post-production right now. It's on the schedule for 2026. Other than that, the constant stream of stuff that never happened just added to the idea that there wasn't a whole lot of order over at Lucasfilm under the leadership of Kathleen Kennedy.
And say this about Feige, but Feige got work out. Yes, Feige was overworked at Marvel. Yes, we got fatigue from all the projects coming out. But films were released. That's a key difference. That's my biggest issue with Kathleen Kennedy's tenure at Lucasfilm. A lot was announced, a lot was discussed, a lot was presented, but not a whole lot was put out there. And I think that's the big issue, the big legacy you get left with when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy's tenure at Lucasfilm.
It's actually kind of hard to approach talking about Kathleen Kennedy's legacy at Lucasfilm because not only is it mixed in with the up and down nature of so much of what happened with Star Wars and other franchises while she was the executive there, it's mixed in with the rise of YouTube and the angry Star Wars fan and the sort of content that is largely driven by hating Star Wars that we've seen over the last several years. The Fire Kathleen Kennedy battle cry has really fueled the rise of a lot of voices in the Star Wars fandom that have been rooting for her downfall. And I'm sure that many of them are celebrating about this news, especially if it does turn out to be true. But I've always thought that it was interesting that Kathleen Kennedy kind of became a Schrodinger's executive in a lot of the discussions about Star Wars. When something went wrong, she was solely to blame. And when something went right, she deserved none of the credit. I think that the answer lies somewhere in the middle. If I go back and I look in totality at her term as the head of Lucasfilm, do I think that she was a great executive? No, I don't. I think that there were just too many problems at the production phase, too many big picture issues for me to say that she did a fantastic job as the head of Lucasfilm. But I think that you also have to acknowledge that she was the head of a major division under the umbrella of a major corporation at Disney for the first time during a time of the most radical change in the media landscape, really since the invention of television. No division at Disney, including Marvel, has come out of the last few years unscathed. And so, yes, I do think some of that blame falls on Kathleen Kennedy. I think some of that blame also falls on Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, who, as the heads of Disney, mandated a ramp up in production in order to make stuff for Disney Plus. They wanted a Star Wars movie out every year first. Then they wanted multiple Star Wars shows. The execution of that does largely come down to Kathleen Kennedy, but the big picture idea came from higher up than she is.
Yes, 100% agree with everything he just said. 100%. That is the big issue. I'm gonna take my shirt off here because it's getting a little hot. That is the big issue ultimately with Kathleen Kennedy's tenure in Kathleen Kennedy's tenure in in Disney. A lot of the big problems that we have with it, it's because of Disney pushing for more content. Dan Muriel, I don't always agree with Dan Muriel. I think his opinions on the Marvels was a little too hyperbolic for my tastes. But he gets the film industry. He knows what he's talking about. While I don't always agree with him, he is right. This is what happened. Disney pushed for a lot of content to get pushed out. And you're seeing that with Marvel too. Marvel had the same issue. Disney across the board had the same issue. Push content for Disney Plus, push content. Marvel went from putting out 3 films a year, 2 films a year to like 4 films a year, 3 or 4 television shows. Produce. And it's only now that they're pumping the brakes a little bit, slowing down, reassessing things, that you're starting to see the movies come together. Captain America 4 was not a success in my book in terms of the writing, but it was better, and a lot of that had to do with the pumping of the brakes. And rumors I'm hearing about the Thunderbolts says it's going to be pretty solid. So, again, it's rumors, no one can confirm anything for sure, but that's Marvel. And Marvel is a much more structured, much more well put together ship than Lucasfilm, who essentially would make a couple of films every couple of years. Nick Wolf, thank you, Super Chat. Hang on, I've cracked the code. Shad, Critical Drinker, Star Wars Theory, Jar, Geeks and Gamers, Nodrotic, Eric July, and the Pronouns Guy as the new Star Wars Brain Trust. You really nailed it right there. I'm sure that would go wonderfully. Again, people have to remember. Oh, it's the last of my tea right there. And it looks like all the tea leaves sprang up and they're in the cup. Just going to drink some. I'm going to chew this tea now, it looks like. Yeah, there's some tea leaves. One of the bags in there, like, ripped and like all the little tea leaves sprinkled in there. No big deal. But that's great. You cooked well. That's a good 5-course meal to chew on for everyone else. But yeah, no, and the other problem is, I think, with Kathleen Kennedy is that she backed down from her ideas too quickly. She backed off the idea of the initial pitch for Solo and The Rise of Skywalker. She canceled The Acolyte. She did push back on the very ideas she greenlit. She didn't stand the course. She didn't let things go. Disney has something to do with that too, but she still pushed hard. And let's not forget Willow, which I think is very underrated. I like Willow quite a bit, actually. Controversial take, Willow shouldn't have been deleted off the internet. It should be licensed out somewhere. It's a good series. I like Willow quite a bit. But you can't really save Willow because it's gone from the internet thanks to Disney. Just saying.
Then you also throw in the pandemic, which threw everything into disarray. 2 major strikes, which threw everything into disarray once again. And I think that there are some mitigating factors. Can I read the tea leaves?
I'll try.
And when you look at the media landscape overall, I think that executives at all levels made huge mistakes in the last 5 to 8 years. And one of those was the what I call strip mining of just about every intellectual property, not just Star Wars, in order to try to build up these streaming services, which I think was a big move that was also a big mistake for almost every studio. I actually have a lot of respect for Kathleen Kennedy as a producer. She is one of the most successful producers of all time. She produced some of the biggest hits of all time. She worked her way up at Amblin and eventually was shoulder to shoulder with Steven Spielberg when he was at his box office and some would say creative peak. She produced other movies that weren't directed by Steven Spielberg. I think she deserves a lot of respect in the industry and a lot of credit for what she did, but that doesn't change the fact that her tenure at Lucasfilm was very uneven. Kathleen.
Agreed, 100%. I got nothing to add to that. That's just facts. No, actually, I do have something to add to it. On the internet landscape, we have a real tendency to see things in terms of if it was great or if it was the worst thing ever. And we can't accept that something can be great at the same time it could be terrible. And Kathleen Kennedy's tenure at Star Wars was both of those things. Without Kathleen Kennedy, Star Wars as a brand would be dead. It would be. Star Wars was dead for most people after the prequel trilogy came out. People don't like to accept that, but it was as a brand struggling. And maybe you grew up with Star Wars, and that's great. The prequels, and that's great. That's great for you. But for a lot of the older people, Star Wars was a dead brand at that point. Kathleen Kennedy did bring it back. It brought it back in discussion. We would not be seeing the prequel era renaissance without Kathleen Kennedy, I think, to the extent that we've seen it already. I mean, we'd still have it, but not to the same extent. And, say what you will, I don't think the sequel trilogy is as bad as people say it is. I think it's a very okay string of movies with some great stuff in there. I think The Last Jedi is the best of them. I know it's controversial, but I will argue in favor of The Last Jedi more than once. In fact, I might just do that in the future. But still, yeah. I think this is the most level-headed response we're going to get. And because of that, let's move away to anger. Let's see Eckhart's Ladder. People are saying he's pretty decent.
Well, get ready to see this video in different forums across YouTube all day. It's been reported by The Hollywood Reporter that Kathleen Kennedy is expected to retire from her role as president of Lucasfilm by the end of this year, 2025. She's held the role of president since 2012. She was initially co-chair alongside George Lucas. Then after the purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney, she moved exclusively into the role as president. To say that Kathleen Kennedy is a somewhat maligned figure among the Star Wars community might be putting it lightly. I will say, however, it's never been my approach. Kathleen Kennedy is the president of Lucasfilm, but Lucasfilm is no longer an independent entity, so I find it difficult to assign all of the blame for Star Wars' various missteps to her directly. I think,
again, that's fair. Disney is the big one. Disney is the big overhead thing. Rational criticism tempers the Kathleen Kennedy hate with saying, hey, she was an employee of Bob Iger. She was an employee of Bob Chapek. All the big issues, they can be traced to decisions made by Disney corporate. That's how it is. Imp Sassy, thank you for Super Chat. My creed as a consumer, it's okay for things to just be okay. 100%. And she was an easy scapegoat because she was a public figure. But, I digress.
I think the biggest mistake that Star Wars made quite clearly was the mishandling of the sequel trilogy, specifically the lack of an overarching plot and the kind of rush to get everything out by 2019. That, however, seemed to be largely because of the efforts of Bob Iger. But if you are Kathleen Kennedy, the buck has to stop with you as well. And I think it's fair to say that there have been other major missteps as well. Like I said, I typically don't find it helpful to put the blame on any one person in particular, especially when it comes to sort of nebulous mistakes. But Star Wars, I don't want to say it's a crisis right now, but things are not nearly as good as they should be. But
yeah, and a lot of it has to do, again, with Kathleen Kennedy, but a lot of it has to do with, here's the thing, too. Skeleton Crew was pretty solid. More things like Skeleton Crew would have been better, but instead they pushed these quick, rushed, poorly paced shows, stretching movie ideas out to television series. It's just a mess.
I feel like that's also the case for Marvel, which is in the middle of another really big flop with the new Captain America movie. For example, I
wouldn't say it's a really big flop. We don't really know that yet. It's on pace to break even, which is not great, but It also costs less, so that's a big factor as well. Andor Season 2 looks incredible. The problem is that it's not about flopping so much as Disney pouring money into Disney Plus and it just not panning out the way they were hoping it would.
I think probably from the top down, there was a directive that each of the big Disney heavy hitters needs to be producing content for streaming, and that's really backfired for both Star Wars and Marvel, which have arguably diluted the value of their brand by putting out mediocre products. But while I'd call that a strategic mistake, Star Wars has also made smaller tactical mistakes even within specific series. For example, I think one of the most harmful things done to Star Wars as a streaming property was the sort of reversal of The Mandalorian Season 2 in the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett should have been its own show, and I think was actually shaping up to be something pretty cool. Then they brought Mando in. They completely derailed not just that show, but also The Mandalorian as a series. Season 3 suffered because of that, and I think generally we're still feeling the effects of that mistake. Again, was that...
That wouldn't be my biggest issue with the Book of Boba Fett. I think that whole show was just a fundamental mess of a series. Arthur Clybourne writes, thank you, Super Chat. Disney executives messing things up by sticking their noses where they don't belong is nothing new. Insert long rant about So Weird Season 3 here. So Weird. That was a show. That was the season where they recast everyone, right? So Weird Season 3, is that right? Am I making that mistake? Or was it Season 2? Where they fired all the actors, the writers, and they replaced it with a cheaper production crew. Is that it? Because the first season at the least was like a Twin Peaks for kids, basically, with some really good horror for kids. No, Book of Boba Fett was a mess because it was just a poorly made show. It wasn't well written. I honestly think Book of Boba Fett was the worst Star Wars production, period. Outside of Attack of the Clones, which I think is a piece of garbage movie, but I digress.
That because of Kathleen Kennedy? I don't know. It's very possible that Disney saw the value of The Mandalorian as a character and Grogu as a character. They might have seen 2 years between.
The only original... Okay, I'm reading comments here. David DeLeValon, thank you. Dude, the Book of Boba Fett was just a Mando commercial. The only thing about the Book of Boba Fett was teaching Boba how to use a gaffney stick. Yeah, well, the whole show sucked. Like, the conflict was boring. Boba Fett wasn't interesting in the role. It was poorly paced. It was awkwardly written. There was no clear central threat throughout the whole show. There was no driving action. It was just a messy, messy show. And it didn't help that it was also told in a way that took you out of any given conflict because of how chronologically everything happened. If the show was told in chronological order, I think it would have been more successful at communicating its ideas, but I don't care for it at all.
Between Mandalorian properties and tried to,
what time? What do you? Okay, now I'm seeing something in chat that I'm gonna have to step in right now. I'm going to put you in a half-hour timeout. What time is love? Seeing some of your posts there. You're in timeout now. Anyway, back to this.
Retool the Book of Boba Fett to get more Mando to keep it in the public consciousness, but it was a mistake either way. And at some point, I think criticism has to fall on the president. And Star Wars and Lucasfilm as a company is certainly in a transitional point. I'd say this is...
I think the problem is we're looking at this like from a specific, like, oh, it was too much of a commercial. No, the problem was it was poorly written and poorly paced. From a structural standpoint, the scripts just weren't successful. I don't particularly think Book of Boba Fett worked. I think some of these shows don't work because they don't have a real central struggle, a central idea. They're made to fill a block on a time scale, and because of that, they just kind of throw ideas out there. And it's not paced well. There's no, the tension isn't quite there. It's just spinning the wheel for content's sake, and that's not good enough. it's better to get a real passionate idea for. If you can boil down your story to a sentence, it has a good idea. And you can pitch it to someone. So, like, for example, Book of Boba Fett. The Mandalorian. A lone bounty hunter and his adoptive child navigate a world of scum and villainy. Like, right there. Simple. Easy pitch to have. While the Empire is pursuing them. If you want to really add the little final clip at the end there. That's interesting. Obi-Wan Kenobi even. An old war hero is forced back into action to protect the daughter of a senator from his old nemesis. Right there. Easy concept to pitch. Right? As long as you don't deviate from that core pitch, it works. Even if you have to expand other elements. Like, I think the Reva stuff actually works in Obi-Wan Kenobi quite well. My biggest issue is that it's just kind of stiff. That's the problem with Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's very stiff. It's very stiffly told. The characters act stiffly. They talk stiffly. They're clearly confined in a small space, except for certain scenes where they have more budget. It feels very much like they're stuck in a tight location and can't really wobble around enough there, which for an action series doesn't work too well. Book of Boba Fett. How do you boil that down to a sentence? An old bounty hunter becomes a crime lord who doesn't want to be a crime lord, who gets help from his old friend, the bounty hunter from the other show. Like, see what I mean? It doesn't flow the same way. You can't boil it down as easily as like that. Nick Wolf, thanks super chat. That said, Boba gave us the Like a Bantha remix. Okay, I'll give you that. That's valid. Okay, I think Eckhart Ladders is kind of straightforward again. Very much in the Dan Muriel school of like, hey, this decision is a mixed bag. Kathleen Kennedy is unfairly blamed for a lot of Lucasfilm's problems, though she is responsible for some of them. I think I agree with both of them so far. Let's get spicy. Oh, there's me. Oh, and there's Star Wars Theory right above me. Oh, that's great. Okay. Let's watch this guy.
Literally 8 minutes ago, just found out that Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from Lucasfilm this year. You don't want to hate or dislike someone, but I mean, she has respectfully, she's fucked the brand royally.
Oh, he's selling something in his video. It's great.
Mayhem, just having some eggs and potatoes, a little bit of mango, some tea, and the packages still haven't arrived, so we're fucked.
So we have a convention, but no product to sell.
Pretty much. We have a few, but not enough.
What?
We're fucked. All right.
Ad? For his company?
Food. Fridays are usually the days where things, you just kind of get ease into it. Tomorrow, Hayden comes to the convention.
Okay, get to the point.
Savers for the 4th, which I'll announce later. That'll be done. House in Texas or condo in Miami.
The thing with me that is good and bad is that I'm never good with.
I'm very confused. This is a video about Kathleen Kennedy, right?
Just.
Finally at the expo, my friend.
Yes, I have.
Congratulations, man. You put in a lot of long nights.
I know this will help fund the movie,
Yes.
which is my number one.
Yeah, you're giving back.
Swinging there, 23 different sound fonts. Because I'm not.
Oh, here we go. This looks like a big ad. So he was probably filming that before, and then he just recycled all that footage for a Kathleen Kennedy film. Okay, let's get to the point now.
Their one was great, man. I was so happy to see you guys. Saw some familiar faces. Got to see, it was my first convention in my own hometown.
Where
so
did
it
he
was
talk
nice
about
to
Kathleen
actually
Kennedy?
connect with you all in my home city because I've never done that before. So this is my first meetup ever, first kind of like.
And I'm like, check out Theory. He's buff as hell. It's for grown men.
What the? What's the point of this? Just get to the. Talk about fucking Kathleen Kennedy.
Oh, no way. That's so cool.
Your interpretation of what would happen, but there's people everywhere, bro. It's really cool. How does it feel after meeting person 100? I know it's kind of a fun.
This is the most self-aggrandizing video about Kathleen, but that's not about Kathleen Kennedy. Okay, this is wasting my time. Let's move on to something else. Okay. So here's the actual spice. I thought, they really did have a real clickbait title for nothing at all. It was not even about that video. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure there's some there's a nugget here or there, but it's come on, it's not worth it. All right, now this is the cringe I was looking for. This is This is the kind of like reaction content I was looking for. You got the alternating red and white text font. Got a big bunch of, random imagery cluttering the thumbnail. It really gives supermarket National Enquirer vibes, which I'm all about. Let's see how this works out. Let's see.
The day that so many Star Wars fans had wanted for years and years may finally come to pass at some point in 2025. Kathleen Kennedy, the person who has overseen the destruction of Disney Star Wars, the person who fans have been calling for to step down or be fired or be replaced for over 5 years now, might
5 years? So just since Rise of Skywalker, then. Interesting.
Finally say, you know what? I've done enough. It's time for me to leave. Lucasfilm boss Kathleen Kennedy expected to retire this year. The prolific producer has presided over Star Wars and Indiana Jones franchise through ups and downs since 2012. Now I would say for 6 years.
Now, chat, that was 6 years. He's been changing the years, going up by how much, but by the end of it, it's like, you know what, for about 12 years now, people wanted Kathleen Kennedy to retire. How much you want to see he says that by the end of it? All right. Nick Wolf, say what you will. Jar tell you when he is padding the vid. Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah, at least Jar is upfront about it. Yeah, no. How much you want to bet he expands the number of years from 5 to like 8 or 9 at the end of it?
Now, we've heard fake news, bullshit rumors, false reports that, Bob Iger's going to step in and fire Kathleen Kennedy, and Bob Chapek's going to fire Kathleen Kennedy, and Bob Iger's now going to fire Kathleen Kennedy. Virtually all of those rumors were bogus, were bullshit. I even caught some heat for calling those out at one point in time. What I have said was that I felt that Kathleen Kennedy would walk away at some point when she's ready to, because quite frankly, this woman is kind of old. Kathleen Kennedy's 71 years old. To put that in perspective, George Lucas is 80. Kathleen Kennedy will be 72 in June. George Lucas was, 68, 67 years old when he decided I'm too old to make Star Wars movies and sold the company to Disney. Kathleen Kennedy definitely getting up there in age. But when it comes to this report...
All right, so far he's not wrong. And I said the same thing as much before. I will give credit when credit is due. He is not wrong currently because he is just saying what physically is happening in the world. But let's see if he brings the same nuance that Dan Murrell or Eckhart's Ladder brought when discussing Kathleen Kennedy's role in Star Wars and its trajectory. Somehow I anticipate this will not be the case.
Report itself, it's coming from Puck. Matthew Bologna over at Puck News. Kathleen Kennedy to step down at Lucasfilm. If it does happen, I would expect probably October as opposed to something like December. That would be the fiscal year. But let's get into this article a little bit. After more than a decade in a galaxy far, far away, Kathleen Kennedy is charting a course towards retirement. The Lucasfilm boss has told associates she plans to retire by the end of 2025. Reps for Kennedy and Lucasfilm were not immediately available for comment. Now, when it does come to Puck, I don't know if they're the most 100% reputable.
Yeah, so she's 71. She does not look 71, but I don't know how much of that is just a really good skin routine, maybe some work done, who knows. But, I mean, look, she's one of the few major female executives in cinema history. That's a big deal. Her career is massive. She's done a lot of big stuff. But, yeah, no, so we'll go from there. Am I yelling in the mic? Am I yelling really loud? I'm sorry about that. Cool.
However, I will say they are the ones that came out, I believe, 3 years ago and talked about the extension for Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm when so many people were talking about the bullshit that Disney was going to fire her and stuff. So when it comes to this specifically...
Oh, the other guy. Oh, yeah, no. He always yells. That's his thing. And in his mic, for whatever reason, a lot of these guys yell way too loud into the mic. Yeah, no, she's not in her 50s. She got started with Steven Spielberg back when they were all fairly young, like with Indiana Jones, I think it was one of her first ones, the original one. Oh yeah, I watched Emirichu. Emirichu's great. Alright. Yeah, no. And also the thing is also this too. Why would Kathleen Kennedy want to keep doing Star Wars, right? Like, you get day in and day out all this anger, all this animosity from fans who could never create anything nearly as legendary as Star Wars, insisting they know they do your job better than you do. And hey, maybe they could do their job better than her. Who knows? But if you're in charge of a company, you don't want to hear like some kid on the internet tell you that, some guy on the internet tell you that. And at a certain point, you're like, what's even the point of doing this anymore? I have my money, I have my success, I can walk away from this. So I think a lot of people, I think Kathleen Kennedy right there especially, is kind of thinking, you know what? I've done enough. I can step down. And it's fair. The problem is there's no succession plan. There's no clear succession plan. That's the big issue I have.
They have been accurate when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy-related Lucasfilm news in the past. So just keep that in your mind. Kennedy joined Lucasfilm in 2012 as the co-chair alongside Star Wars creator George Lucas, and a few months later took the reins after Disney paid $4 billion for the company. Look, ultimately, it's going to be really great, a celebration for fans when she steps down. The question is, will it fucking change anything? Lucasfilm needs a top-to-bottom overhaul. I remember 6 years ago when a lot of people were saying, Dave Filoni should take over Star Wars. Guess what? Dave Filoni has had creative input in everything that Star Wars has had come out over the...
Okay, so he seems to fail to understand what the executive really does at Lucasfilm. Like, as you've established multiple times before, Kathleen Kennedy is not involved in creative decisions. She is involved in the production issues. Undeniably so, the production of Star Wars needs an overhaul. The problems are two. One, that's not Dave Filoni's problem. He's involved with creative. He's subject to production decisions that people like Kennedy would work with. And two, and most important of all, Lucasfilm is a subsidiary of Disney. It is Disney that is ultimately responsible for many of the problems Lucasfilm has found itself in. Saying Lucasfilm needs a top-to-bottom overhaul doesn't address anything, because the problem is ultimately Disney's entire approach. And Disney's entire approach is changing. That is a key component you need to consider. Steph the Scientist, thank you for Super Chat. Isn't that why Lucas quit? Lucas quit for a number of reasons. He was not considered, his ideas were not taken seriously by Disney, and he kind of left as well. Why would he want to do Star Wars? Yeah, right? Like, he sold the company because he was just tired of being harassed all the time by fans, you know? And then he stepped even further away from Star Wars and Lucasfilm because, well, Disney wasn't really going to listen to his ideas, so why bother contributing them? Nick Wolf, thanks Super Chat. Star Wars reminds me of an episode of Jackie Chan Adventures. Oh, first off, thank you for reminding me of Jackie Chan Adventures. About a bad luck stone where the owners must willingly give it away to transfer the curse. Was it the Blarney Stone? Was that the one where Jackie Chan has it for 5 seconds and goes bankrupt? I remember that one. That was funny. Good old Irish curses. You never want to fuck with those. Anyway.
The past several years. That's the reality. And Star Wars has never been worse than it is today.
What about the Star Wars Holiday Special? I would say that's worse than anything Disney's putting out today. But what are you gonna do?
So no, that's not the fucking solution. Although there's still some delusional fans that think he's worth a shit. He's not. Lucasfilm needs a top to bottom cleansing. I don't expect that to happen. I expect Kathleen Kennedy to have a say in whoever replaces her, and I expect more of the same from Disney if this comes to pass. As it stands right now, the reports are she's expected to retire by the end of the year. Not fired, not shamed, not told you destroyed Star Wars, get the fuck out of here. Instead, at her leisure, leave when she wants to leave. And it's weird. Guess all those people who've been screaming for 6 years that Disney was going to fire her, looks like they were wrong. Not really a surprise. Ultimately, I'll buy it when I see it when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy. And
so why is he like so insistent it has to be some humiliating, like, here's what I don't understand. Like, yeah, she's retiring. She was successful at her job. She made Disney money. Towards the end, she didn't. And then she said, I'm going to leave now. You're allowed to. She is still to this day one of the most financially successful producers in Hollywood history. She was never going to be fired. She was always going to leave on her own terms. And quite frankly, yeah, she did. Why, though, he's making this a big deal about Kathleen Kennedy being fired and being punished and being humiliated? It's because he just is pissy about it. And again, it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, what is that? Who cares if she's, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where, like, why would that make any difference? You should do it. Do you want to, like, just get angry at Kathleen Kennedy, or do you want a good movie? You know, like, what's more valuable? I would always take the good movie over, getting angry at a producer any day. If they can make something good, that's all I care about. I care about the output, about the process. This, though, screams that he wanted her to be, like, dragged through the mud or something like that, which is just, okay, whatever. That's neither here nor there. That was never going to happen. You were always going to be, Yeah, that's the thing also. It was a short video, so that's good. Anything else he has at the end?
At some point, you knew the old bitch was going to step down.
Oh, of course,
because she is just getting old.
Like,
but we'll see if it comes to pass at some point this year, although I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be happy to see her leave. Not being fired like she should have been for destroying a property like this, but instead celebrated and sent off into pasture. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section.
The problem is he is so entitled. That's the thing that bugs me about these kinds of reactions. It's like, oh, she should have been thrown out into the streets and gutted and yada, yada, yada. It's like, no, just fucking calm the fuck down, man. Like, just chill the fuck out. She's retiring on her own. Things change. Out with the old, new people come in, new production ideas come in. But again, it's ultimately still a subsidiary of Disney. That is the key point. Like, who cares about fucking, oh, they're destroying Star Wars, big deal. Who gives a shit? Just relax, okay? You're going to get your new films. You're going to get some new creative decisions. It's like, who cares, And yeah, I think it's good that she's retiring. I think it's at this point in time, what you want to see is new blood in, someone else who has a new perspective coming in to maybe reshape things. A top to bottom cleanse. It's like, that's like, what is it? What are we talking about here? Who would you put in? Yeah. What do you want? What's your plan? They talk a big game about, firing Kathleen Kennedy, throwing her out. What would you do instead? What's your plan? What's your business plan? How would you run it? You want to set up a successor so that it's not chaos at the company. Disney understands this. You need a succession plan. That's why Bob Chapek was fired, and they brought Bob Iger back to have a proper succession plan in place. Whenever a company loses a CEO or a president or a division loses a president, you need to put a procedure in place so that leadership is able to progress naturally. Chaos does not help anything. And if you think it's bad now, without proper leadership, a chicken running with its head cut off is not going to work out for a company production scale. And that's not even getting into the ageism and sexism of this video, which I expected going in, so I'm not reacting to it because, I mean, look, how do you click on a video that looks like that and think, yeah, I'm going to expect some mild-mannered perspective on this issue that's balanced and fair. No, you're not going to get that. You know exactly what type of supermarket tabloid you're getting on the YouTube equivalent with a thumbnail like this. But again, and this critical drinker video is 6 months old, so it has no relevancy to our discussion right now. Now, Geeks and Gamers has one. I'm surprised how few views it has, though, considering how big their audience is. You think they'd have a few 100,000 by this point. Oh yeah, again, you remember how like Critical Drinker was saying how they only started hating the Acolyte when the trailer came out? Yet this is a video 4 years ago that has Leslie Headland, right? Yeah, Leslie Headland. Yeah. That's that whole thing, isn't it? Bite Chiepio Dara, thank you for super chat. Still in Kathleen, I see. Yeah, we're still in Kathleen. Nick Wolf, the Blarney Stone was about kissing. Thanks, Johnny Bravo. There we go. And Starbit, thank you for super chat. Thank you for your first super chat. Wow. A lot of these guys seem to forget that Star Wars has always been a mixed bag of quality from the very beginning. It's just that Disney's recent oversaturation makes it much more noticeable. 100% agree with that. Yeah. We are oversaturated with Star Wars. We have oversaturated with Marvel. We need to pump the brakes. And that's why James Gunn's new strategy, I think, is going to be really good. Because what it's going to do is we're going to pump the brakes a bit. We're going to take a step back. We're going to go, oh, hey, we're not going to get as many movies a year. We're going to get some competition in the form of another studio. That's going to force them to innovate a little bit more. And I think that's going to be really good. And if the animation from Marvel is anything to go by, they have some creative guys in there that are really talented. I guess we have to look at Geeks and Gamers because we looked at the other trifecta of folks on here. Critical Drinker doesn't look like he's posted a video on it, which is probably for the best. SMJT, thank you for super chat. Also, Mark Kern as head director for LucasArts. Oh God, forget the output now. He'll never finish games. He still hasn't finished his Kickstarter game. His donors are pissed about that, I think. All right, again, a little more subtle of a thumbnail than the previous one, but let's take a look. I'm gonna have to fix my
Stop
algorithm
me if
later.
you've heard this one before, but breaking news. Kathleen Kennedy is set to step down as president of Lucasfilm. I know, you've probably heard that one a time or two. You might have actually heard it from this channel, I don't know, 6 years ago. But here we are with it.
I love how all the other guys, they start off with like, the Hollywood Reporter, Puck, a Variety. And he's like, nah, guys, my Twitter account has broken the news. We got it. It's just like such a depth and quality in terms of like where their sources. Of course, it's their own self-promotion too, but hey, y'all, Geeks and Gamers follows his personal account, his own company.
Coming from a source, Puck News, right here. Other outlets are reporting on it. Screen Time, Culture Crave, who has me blocked.
Culture Crave. Everyone else is talking about the Hollywood Reporter. You're going, oh no, Culture Crave. They've cracked it too, but they have me blocked, so I don't like them. It's like, what are you doing? Just get to the trades, man.
But here's the actual source of it.
He didn't even fucking cite the Hollywood Reporter. Interesting. Okay, anyway.
Matt Baloney, I think that's how you say it, is reporting that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Lucasfilm by the end of 2025. It's happening. After years of speculation and polite urging from observers like me, Kathleen Kennedy has informed Disney, as well as friends and associates, that she will exit as Lucasfilm president by the end of the year, per 3 sources. Disney and Kathleen Kennedy...
Is that the actual article? Yeah, it is. Okay, that's the article. Okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure that was the article text. That's all.
Personal publicist declined to comment.
Arthur Clybourne writes, thank you for super chat. Kind of surprised Critical Drinker hasn't weighed in on this yet. Thought he'd be all over it. Yeah, but I can see him waiting for the full story to happen. Like I can see. I feel of all of them, he's like the one most likely to take a little longer. Whereas a lot of these guys, they jump on stream and then just talk about it. He likes to make edited content a little more, and that takes a little bit more time, in fairness. You can still pump out a video by this point, but anyway.
Not a huge shock. Of course, Kennedy will be 72 in June. She was, handpicked by George Lucas. She actually planned on leaving last year, I'm told, and had even set up an exit interview with a journalist, but she decided to stay for one more year.
Nutter the butter. Thank you for super chat. David Zaslav, head of Lucasfilms. Oh God, there's no way. He would never take he would never take less money for a job.
Isn't this interesting how all this is playing out? Now, me being the very nice and respectful person that I...
Please inform me what your plan is. What's so interesting about this? That a person nearing retirement age is in fact retiring.
I responded here on Screen Time and said, thank you, President Donald Trump, because President Trump is making America great again, and one of the crucial steps to that is...
What the fuck you talking about, man? You're just fucking trolling at this point. No. A person who's 72 is retiring. That's it. It was probably had nothing to do... You even read in your article she was planning on retiring last year, but held off a little bit. Because again, as we observed previously in the Hollywood Reporter article, the previous succession plan was interrupted. That's most likely why. But he's just trolling for the cheap seats. That's what it is. Like he's just trolling for the cheap seats. There's no point even bothering to acknowledge it beyond how ridiculous it is. No, there's no way he's serious. He's just trolling.
Is to make Star Wars great again.
Nutter the butter or John K. Oh God, can you imagine? No. Adrian Parchman, yeah, laughing. That's not a bad drink actually. Looks pretty good. Laughing drink icon. Yeah, it's just a stupid joke. This isn't worth acknowledging. I'm not going to bother reacting to it.
And that might be the toughest job he has because Kathleen Kennedy has absolutely ruined Star Wars beyond belief. It's so far gone that it's even hard to process. But what's it?
Can any of these people actually explain what Kathleen Kennedy's actual job is at Lucasfilm? Can any of them actually explain it? I keep hearing, oh, she's absolutely ruined Star Wars. Yeah, she was in charge of Lucasfilm. She was responsible for some of the problems that Star Wars faced. But what is her actual job? Can any of these people tell me what she does? She ruined Star Wars. Okay, what does she do then? What does she do? Does she go in at night in the Star Wars factory and put lice in the mixing bowls or something? It's a producer job. She's involved with the production side of things. The production issues are a problem. I can point to those. But problem is discussing the complexities of what a producer does at a studio. That's not as fun or easy to do in a 5-minute video.
Interesting here is right when all of this USAID money, this USAID money starts to get exposed, suddenly all of the wokeness starts to disappear. Remember?
Oh, wait. Are you serious? You're serious. You actually think this is a thing? You actually believe what you're saying? No, there's no way. You're trolling. There's no way you could be this dumb. There's no fucking way.
When Sean Penn went to Ukraine to give an Oscar award to Zelensky. Yeah, he didn't do it simply out of the generosity of his heart. Penn was reportedly...
What does any of this have to do with Lucasfilm? Oh, you can't be serious. No, there's no way. No. This is he's just trolling for his audience. There's no human way that anyone can make this ridiculous of a claim. This has to be a bit. No one could be this dumb.
He paid $5 million by the USAID.
Come on,
now I don't know if he was actually paid that much money or not. There's a lot of different reports out there. As Bill Mitchell says right here, is it a coincidence now that the USAID funds have been cut off from media outlets that woke shows are suddenly being canceled?
Okay, so Disney banned the episode of Devil Dinosaur, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, months ago. Win or lose, that whole controversy happened months ago. Had nothing to do with the USAID money, dude. It was a general movement that was already happening. They were already in the process of changing any high-risk projects. Publishing, especially for younger audiences, has had these issues. USAID has nothing to do with media outlets restricting their content or changing their content strategies. And besides, by your own logic, you're saying an older person's retiring. Donald Trump is still substantially older than Kathleen Kennedy. So I don't get what your point is. It's just ridiculous. Especially because Zelensky, the USAID, and Disney, which is a private company, I might add, are three completely disconnected things. This is like in Always Sunny when Charlie has like the board of all the different things and they're all like, oh, it's all pinned together. This bit is really dumb. You gotta say something soon because I'm gonna actually start thinking you actually believe this nonsense. The Maestro, thank you for Super Chat. If he was going to acknowledge Kathleen being too old, he'd have to acknowledge his messiah Donald Trump being too old and should step down. Yeah, exactly. Robert Cruz, thank you, Trump. Oh, by the way, no politics in fandoms, please. Yeah, exactly. It's always the keep politics out of my fandom. Meanwhile, they bring politics unnecessarily into this discussion about a guy retiring. Baichiapiodera, thank you, Super Chat. This man's talking points proves that some people need to be held back in school. Yeah, this is really dumb. This is really stupid. If he doesn't make a good point next minute, I'm going to switch off.
Wokeness is just disappearing everywhere you look, everywhere you go. And now suddenly, after years of destroying the most iconic franchise in...
You know, I think for his job, you better hope that the wokeness doesn't disappear entirely because he would have nothing to talk about. They have to know. They have to know that this is going to cause their channels to take a big dip. They've survived this whole time with a boogeyman, with Kathleen Kennedy as their boogeyman. Without Kathleen Kennedy there, they're going to lose their main talking point, their main adversary. A channel like this needs a villain. They need a villain to fight because without a central villain, the narrative kind of loses its steam, doesn't it? You need the central bad guy to fight. They don't have that anymore. They just lost it. And the word woke, yeah, studios are pulling back on young shows with younger audiences with diverse populations. We're still getting diverse shows, but not as overtly. And that's okay because it's going to give artists a chance to approach these topics authentically. And most of what Disney provided was never really all that special. I've been criticizing it for years. But you're still going to get your Angels in America. You're still going to get your like real big artistic pieces. Nick Wolf, thanks Super Chat. Man who I healthfully obsess over USAID. I'm getting massive USAID vibes from this. Yeah, exactly. This has nothing to do with USAID. He's trying to like tie in the SEO value of the current political climate with a woman who is 71, soon to be 72, retiring after a long career. Like, this is ridiculous. This is arc weaving in its finest. It's trying to put together all the separate parts to appeal to your audience's desires. It's ridiculous. This is so stupid. And it's barely, and even his own thing, they're talking about infighting in his community because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get infighting on your community because now you no longer have your big villain. So you're going to be upset when Kathleen Kennedy goes because what are you going to fight against? What's your content can be about?
In history, after a decade plus of destroying the most iconic IP in history.
After a decade plus, including the years where there was no Star Wars content at all.
Suddenly, the USAID money dries up and Kathleen Kennedy steps down. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. Not one bit.
Oh, you genuinely think that. Okay, bye-bye then. Okay, that was the dumbest thing I've seen all day. Okay, it was funny when I thought it was a bit. Now I realize that you are actually delusional. All right, we got all these different figures. And again, this is someone who I think should retire. Oh, here's the pronoun guy. Oh, we found him. He has the worst thumbnail of all of them. It's like just a picture of Kathleen Kennedy. What is it, like a trash can? Like an Oscar the Grouch thing? All right, let's watch the pronoun guy. Then I gotta figure out a way to clean my algorithm out of this nonsense. Let's see what his articulate perspectives are.
Has she gone or is she here? Kathleen Kennedy's employment status is queer.
Maybe don't quit your day job, buddy. Bite Chip Yodera, thank you, Super Chat. She also helmed some of the best Star Wars content. Agreed. Andor is still, and Rogue One to a lesser extent, but definitely Andor is, to date, one of the best pieces of Star Wars media, period, to have ever come out. Have I heard of Dana Terrace's new show, Glitch? With Glitch. I have heard of it. I have not seen it, though. I need clips of it yet.
No, she's had a contract renewed now for 3 years until 2024. So, I guess it's no longer queer, huh?
Wait. Did he really just recycle old footage of himself to last that long? Okay, pronouns guy.
Oh, hi there. It's February 2025 here, and Kathleen Kennedy is at last set to retire sometime this year. So I guess those rumors were right, hey? You know, the ones that have been going on for 4 or 5 years now. Anyway, ding dong, the witch is dead, eh? Now we just have to get the worst successor imaginable to take over, I guess. See you on the real BBC.
Man, that was lazy. I mean, it's better than everything else I've gotten so far, so you know what? Okay. I mean, that was something. That was something. Okay. So, what have we learned? We've learned that there's two real factions of the people responding to this news right now. They are the people who are more level-headed critics who are going, okay, you know, we didn't get Kathleen Kennedy wasn't great. In fact, she probably was bad. But, you know, there's multiple reasons as to why her tenure was not that good. And it all kind of coalesced. Hopefully the future will be better, but there's no guarantee because the real problem, which is the Disney corporate structure, will not be changing. That is the core message of one side of the fandom. The other side is going bizarre. Is a weird vibe to all these videos, isn't it? Like, they've been building to this for years now. They've been wanting this for years. And the videos are very low effort. Did you notice that? Like, Star Wars Theory puts out a video about this, and it's barely about Kathleen Kennedy. It's about his own company, actually. Geeks and Gamers puts it out, and it's about the Trump administration, which has nothing to do with Disney or private companies' succession plans with their executives, especially if it was in the works for over a year now. Ryan, was it Ryan? What's his name? Ryan Kinnell, the RK Outpost. His whole thing is just, okay, you know, reporting the news story to an extent, but with a lot of editorializing about Venom. And he was the only one that seemed to really stay on topic with all this. And then Heel's Babyface was like, that was the laziest one yet. And the Critical Drinker, I don't think he's put out anything. Let's take a look at his channel. Yeah, Critical Drinker does nothing there. Hasn't touched it. Okay. Just seems... No, we're not watching him. Just seems kind of bizarre, doesn't it? All this pomp and circumstance, all this effort put in, all these years of begging and demanding, and then nothing. So in this video, we talked about the potential succession plan of Disney. We talked about who might replace Kathleen Kennedy. We talked about way more than any of these guys did in 5 minutes. And that was on a live stream, so I had time to do that live. These guys put together edited content, didn't put any effort into discussing what was actually going on. With the exception, of course, of Eckhart's Ladder and Dan Murrell, who both did the work in describing the tenure of Kathleen Kennedy. No, we didn't finish the videos. They did go into it. They discussed it critically. They approached it the way a film critic should approach it, looking at it with a kind of like a top-down perspective of what's going on. Now, this stream is not going to last much longer. I think I'm going to end it early so I can get some editing done on Friday's video, but I do want to answer a few super chats first. But I also want to talk about where I think this is going with the grifter world, because I think that's important to note. But first, Drexis, thank you for super chat. Humans, your existence is a mistake. This about sums up my thoughts right now. Yeah, agreed. David Deister, thank you again for the super chat. You've been very generous today. Really appreciate it. Me on Kathleen Kennedy, the bitch. Yeah, right? It's like, that's horrible to say. I agree with you there. Oh my goodness, it's redonkulous. Like again, but that's the thing. It's like, analyzing evil Kathleen Kennedy next. Oh, I can't. I don't know if I have the energy for that. I passed by that too. That's like a whole thing. I don't want to make this like a Kathleen Kennedy attack. Analyzing evil. Yeah, again, way longer right there. Yeah, she's 71. Yeah, 71 years old. Yokai Lover 699. Thank you, super chat. 70 in just 10 years. She'll finally be old enough to run for president. Yeah, right. Rebel Scum, thank you for the super chat. You should watch Eric Debunk's vid on the matter. Who's Eric Debunk? Is it good? Let me find it out. Okay, Eric Debunk. All right, let's take a look at that. Eric's Debunk. I don't know who Eric's Debunk is. Oh, the quartering has a... All right, should I do the quartering? Do you want me to do the quartering? That's like the big one, right? Is quartering still relevant? Everyone else kind of like getting small. I'm surprised this isn't getting more views, you know? Like these are big channels. This is their biggest story. They've been gearing up for this for a decade now, and they're getting like the quartering's the only one to have crossed over 100,000. Oh, Eric's one of the Shillcast guys. Wait, I streamed with them. I have talked to him. Wait a second. Hang on. Hang on a second. No, that's not him. I've literally been on stream with him. Why am I drawing a blank on... Anthony is a grifter, but he gets money while he complains about grifters. I mean, I'm not really grifting you. I'm just responding to things, you know? Anyway, yeah, I don't have the energy for it anymore. I'm kind of wearing myself thin with all this mentally. I'm more upset by the Wonder Woman cancellation. The game Wonder Woman, I'm more upset by that. Yeah, Showcast. Showcast, I'm down for listening to them. Pillar of Garbage is new with those guys. It's cool. Yeah. Oh, that's my problem. There we go.
Disney is in the business.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's really cool. I like this guy. All right, yeah, let's look at Eric's video. That's a good idea.
Oh my God, were the bullies right? Were the chuds right all along? After a decade of...
Oh, yeah, he's really cool.
Saying that Kathleen
I don't know why I didn't realize his name was Eric Debunks. That's so funny. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you talk to people and you recognize them from their face or their Discord name and not their, like, channel name.
He's going to be fired next week. She's finally been fired. They kicked her out. Disney and Star Wars gave her the pink slip. They put it on her desk in bold font and said, you will not stay here. We're kicking you out. You're going to be broke. And and homeless and living on the streets, begging for change, begging for big bites outside of 7-Eleven. You're going to be doing that for the rest of your life now that you're gone from Disney Star Wars. We're kicking you out.
Yeah, that's the thing right there. They're saying that she's fired when she's not. And he's right. And he's building up to the joke. I think he's going to say, oh, well, actually, she's retiring and maybe only retiring. Still, it's the chud. Here's the thing. When the quartering says on his thumbnail head, they're firing Kathleen Kennedy. They're destroying Star Wars. Really, she's leaving because she's retiring. Steph the scientist. Grifters, we didn't want her gone. We wanted her burned. We've been burning a straw caricature effigy for years. It's not fair. Yeah, right? I think that's the big issue, right? Like, the big issue is that Kathleen Kennedy has been their boogeyman, and it's ending with her just chilling. Oh, and this guy's making a joke about it. He's not taking it seriously.
You have to get out of here. Except that's not at all what's happened.
There we go.
And that it will not be the outcome of Kathleen Kennedy's career. Regardless of what these chud channels want to tell you. You're going to want to stick around for this entire video. I'm not going to keep you long today, but I'm going to explain to you why this is not a W for them, and it's definitely not a W for all of the leeching channels in the grifting space.
Yeah,
in the
he's
outrage
right.
space. This is actually a big L for them. And I love to see all of this happening because, to me, we're going to see the facade come down. We're going to see the bricks fall down from this castle. And only a few hanger-ons are going to stick around when all of this smoke clears. And we're going to see who those guys are. I have my predictions about what channels are going to survive this and which ones aren't. So let's talk about this for a second. Kathleen Kennedy is retiring.
Wait a second. Hang on a second here. This is interesting. So, 3 hours ago, quartering's at 52,000. 5 hours later, just crosses 100,000. This is not doing the numbers for them that they would like. I can see that already. It's not doing the numbers they would like. Nick Wolf, thanks for super chat. Ant, for the Friday vid, will you talk at all about the live action Tokusatsu Sailor Moon show and its take on the material? If you know, you know. That's a good question. I will not be looking at the Tokusatsu series with the Friday video. I'm going to be looking at the anime specifically with some manga elements. But the Tokusatsu series is really good. I love some of their stuff that they pull off. I love the stuffed Luna being like a thing. But no, it's not going to play into what I'm working on. But it is worth doing a video on at some point, I think. But yeah, he's right. What's going to happen is a lot of these grifters are going to sink in terms of who's valuable. Without their boogeyman, they cannot maintain momentum.
At the age of 71, which is a total normal thing to do, retiring at the age of 71 and stepping away from Star Wars after being part of a multi-billion-dollar sequel trilogy and very successful TV shows under her belt and other movies that happened under her belt as well. But these guys have been saying since 2016, almost a decade now, that Kathleen Kennedy is getting fired tomorrow. She's getting fired next week. She's getting fired next month. They've been saying it so long. Eventually, the fact they were saying this when she was in her 60s, eventually she was going to be leaving the company. They just had to keep saying it until it actually happened. So no, they were not right. None of them have been right about this. She's simply retiring. And then Dave Filoni or somebody else will come in to fill the space for this. And this is what normal people do. You get to a certain age, you want to retire, you want to live your life. She's had a track record so incredibly successful. You can go all the way back to the 80s and 90s. A track record so incredibly successful that these idiots, these untalented talking heads on YouTube that do nothing but farm outrage will never, ever, 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 ever amount to even a fraction of the work that Kathleen Kennedy has put in her life.
And that's also true. Again, a lot of these people who talk about how Kathleen Kennedy ruined Star Wars do not have the perspective to talk about this topic, There's a lot going on with the Hollywood industry that you don't understand. I don't don't understand it. I don't have the perspective to run a company. You kidding? I couldn't do it. So I'm not going to pretend I know how to do Kathleen Kennedy's job better than she does because I don't know. I'm not a movie producer. And I'm sure you get a ton of ideas that on paper sound incredible. And then you're like, oh, I have to make a tough decision. I have to reverse course or minimize damage or change direction based on the demands of my bosses. It's not an easy job to do. And you're in a thankless position when you're on top. I'm not saying, oh, think of the poor executives. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's just life, man. That's how it is. And when looking at this whole discussion, they're going to lose their boogeyman. Why aren't the audiences for these channels getting into this? Like, look at this. Really look at this. The Quartering, 52,000 views. Right now, The Quartering sits with that video at... that's Showcast. 101 views. That's 6 hours. So, over the course of 3 hours, it's basically doubled their view count. Let me give you some comparison here. The Quartering this week. McDonald's, Trump smeared, FBI panics, deleting Epstein files. The Epstein files gets more attention than Kathleen Kennedy, apparently. Mass layoffs at Starbucks. It's the average viewer count for his videos. It's just getting average views. It's not getting anything big. And this is like politics news. Like, most of his stuff is just Trump. In fact, most of what he's talking about is just Trump. IRS, Epstein, Elon Musk. It's all Trump, and it's all getting roughly the same amount of views. These channel, even this, Captain America reviews tanking. Roughly the same reviews as the Kathleen Kennedy news. And these videos drop off fast. They have a brief lifespan, then dry up, it looks like. They're all getting the same thing. They're all hitting the same note. And yeah, it's a video every couple of hours, but they're short, low effort, cluttered thumbnail. Disney's collapsing. Same views. Brie Larson gets based. Whatever that actually means. All of this is boring to the audience. It's all white noise. None of this means anything to anyone looking at it. Every thumbnail looks exactly the same. None of them stand out. It's all so boring. All of this is dull. No one cares. Look at this. Hang on, let me give you another example. Yellow Flash over here. This guy who blocked me on Twitter years ago. 38,000 views. How big's his channel? 472,000 subscribers. And his videos get, I don't know. None of them are particularly big. Like, okay, last video he did that was really big was Robert De Niro, which is random. Okay. Robert De Niro with a picture of him crying. And then right after that, a couple days later, you got another picture of a celebrity crying. It's like, okay, that's your pattern, that's your structure. You're getting a couple videos on a daily basis, and none of them are getting the views they used to get. And those views are this. Yellow Flash's most popular video, 1.1 million. And the story came out when Chris Hemsworth said he was stepping away from Hollywood because he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He was with a genetic likelihood of having Alzheimer's. That's his post. That's his thing. His second biggest one, Trump 3 weeks ago, when Trump first took office. After that, 4 years, 1 year, 4 years, 4 years, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year, 6 years, 2 years, 5 years, 1 year, 4 year, 3 year, 4 year, 6 years, 4 years, 6 days ago. Okay, so that was the crying picture. Oh, by the way, he's had 5.4 thousand videos, and most of his most successful years are years behind him. The pattern is shifting away from these guys. Let's look at another one, shall we? Let's look at this one. Geeks and Gamers, right? That's another big channel. 400,000 subscribers, 5.2 thousand videos. Video gets 76,000 views, roughly average with everything else they've done so far. In fact, okay, some of the videos are 7.2 thousand views for 400,000 subscribers. All Asmongold referencing, clinging on to controversy, backlash, Rachel Zegler on screen that gets a few 100,000, no couple 100,000, okay. What's his peak? His peak's 2.4 million 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 2 years ago, 8 months ago. That's his most recent big success. 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 6 years ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 months ago. Accolade. That's it. Their game's done. And they know it. This is their last hurrah. And no one seems to care. More people are watching streams like mine, watching me react to these guys, than people are actually clicking on their videos. Maybe not this stream particularly, but in general, people are sick of these guys. And this is their last hurrah. This is the end for them. It is the end of an era, but not for Disney, Star Wars, not for Lucasfilm. It's for the grifters. They need something to be angry about. And that's it. They're gone. It really is the end of their era. And more reasonable critics who are consistently level-headed, offering real, valuable criticism of the medium, they are successful. They are staying the course at their level of success, yes, but it's still their level. They're not seeing a huge drop-off because they are more consistent. The grifter who offers the same thing every single time, however, you can only hear the same message so many times before you get tired of it. And their audience of kids who were kids 6 years ago have grown up. And some of them have grown away from it. Others have not. But the Quartering, for example, has shifted his entire content model to talking about Trump. He wouldn't do that unless he was financially motivated to do so. And that's it. What's the line from The Dark Knight Rises, a movie I criticized so much only a few months ago? Victory has defeated you. And that's what happens with them. But yeah, brag about the political climate. I'm sure that will really benefit you when people just lose interest in your channels. Yeah, and that's the thing also. They post 70 videos a day. It's ridiculous. It's like a ton of videos in the same week span. I post one a week, and that's a lot of effort. But I also post a lot of well-researched videos, you know? It's all rage, and it's hard to maintain that same level of rage for that long over so prolonged a period of time. Like this Analyzing Evil video with Kathleen Kennedy. That got views because I'm sure it's better edited than half of these rushed 5-minute videos that come out every so often. So, emergency awesome. Okay, same generic nonsense. Yeah, all of it's just disappointing, I'll say. Disappointing to see. And it's sad because you get to see these people who haven't grown up in the last several years continuing to just pilfer the same nonsense. The guy, 493, thanks Super Chat. Part of me kind of pities these guys. Yes, I agree. I would pity them if it wasn't so such an obvious mistake they made. They could have diversified their content years ago. They could have made a change. They could have evolved. Even Star Wars Theory has more success because at least he's able to make a business on the side. These guys, not so much. Anyway, so that's going to be it for today. I'm going to spend the rest of the night editing my Sailor Moon video for Friday to make sure it's out on time. I can show you what I got so far. I'll do it later. You'll see soon enough. You'll see on Friday what I got so far. But I'm hoping it's good. Nick Wolf, thanks for Super Chat. Also, peace has cost you your strength. Yes, exactly. Peace has cost you your strength. Love it. Love it. But yeah, that's what it is, you know? This political victory, I think, is going to really cost a lot of these right-wing channels their audience because what do they have to be angry about? They have what they want. Who are they angry at? They're in charge of all the factions of government. Who are they directing their rage at? You're going to see a lot of infighting. A lot of infighting. A lot of these channels are going to go the way of the dodo, I think. Anyway. So that's that. I have nothing else to really add at this point. I think I've said what I need to on that front. I'm going to shut off early tonight. And hopefully next couple of weeks, I'm going to be focusing more on the anime preservation video. And I'll hopefully come back with a much stronger topic. This week was kind of like, I was a little overwhelmed from the last week of work. I wanted to take it a little easier and have enough time to finish the Sailor Moon video. So, with that being said, you are going to be getting a treat hopefully on Friday. I mean, not you're not going to get the treat on Friday. I'm saying it's hopefully a good video on Friday. Hope you enjoy it. But, yeah, going to spend the rest of the night working and cleaning out this tea bag because I think there's probably some leaves in here. Oh, yep. That bag emptied in there. Yep, it's a mess and a half in this teapot. Don't worry about it. It's just disgusting in there. You have to spend half the night scrubbing. It's going to be great. There'll be a lot of scrubbing from the inside of that teapot. I can't wait for that. Anyway, thank you everyone for taking time to watch. Next week, I think we'll cover some more Rank the MCU villains. I might do that. That might be fun. Might do a group for that one too. And yeah, we'll see what we can round up for that. Also, this Thursday is Pokemon Day, and hopefully that will have some good announcements. Here's hoping. Anyway, take care, everyone. I hope you all have a very good night, and to sound you all out, I will end the way we came in.